This is the Amp Hour Podcast, recorded December 26th, 2011. Episode 75, Sprauncy, Saccadic, Spintherism.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Chris Gamble's Analog Life.
And I'm Ben Krasnow of BKras333 channel.
Yeah, hey, Ben, how you doing?
What's the other one? Mag Concept Design something?
Yeah, my soon-to-be previous business website is magconcept.com.
So most people...
mag for magnetics?
Right.
Right, hence why you've done a few magnetic-type things in your videos and stuff like that.
I think the general public might know you as that guy that does crazy things to himself on YouTube videos with electronics.
Right, that would be the BKras333. It's really too bad that you can't change YouTube channel names. I'd really like to change my channel name, but once you pick one, which I picked, years and years ago, I'm now stuck with.
Yep. You could start all over, I guess. You could redo all your experiments and everything, but that might
re-upload your videos and re-get your subscriber base. And,
terrible.
I know. That ruins you.
Well, Ben, welcome and happy holidays.
Thanks very much. Happy holidays to you too.
Thanks a lot. I'm glad you could make it on short notice and at a weird time of the year. I mean, there's a lot of people that probably won't listen to the Amp Hour, but maybe they'll listen after the holidays, and we're glad Ben could make it on. So
sure.
It's a weird time, all right? I completely forgot about today's. I'm supposed to be out there, but my mate's out there building our quadcopter now, our Canyon copter. I had scheduled that, so I'm taking an hour's break and, recording the show.
That'll do it. Dave had too much eggnog.
Wait, have you done a video on that quadcopter yet?
No, we've recorded, we've just left the video going in the background as we build it and, stuff like that. But we will eventually release build videos and stuff like that. So.
Oh, cool.
Yep. At the moment, it's just a standard kit. It's a standard quadcopter kit, but we plan on modifying it. That's where the real interesting stuff will come into it. We have to put flotation on it so it could land on water and sand and, at weird angles and bounce off walls in the canyon and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Big old rubberized ball, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. We have to brainstorm ideas for actually making things waterproof and it can splash down on water. So, yep. Because the last thing you want to do is hike, 10 kilometers into a canyon, 6 miles or something, into a canyon, and then find that you just drown the thing, and you walk back out with your tail between your legs and go home.
So it sounds like your quadcopter is only going down the canyon. Hopefully you'll be able to fly back up, right?
Yeah. No? Dave, you there? Uh-oh.
Oh, Mumble's mumbling.
Oh, Mumble's mumbling. So it is able to fly back out of the canyon, though, Dave, too? That was Ben's question. All right, and onward from quadcopters. We might have lost Dave there for a second, but
no, I'm back.
Okay,
you guys vanished. I was happily talking to myself and recording myself.
Right.
Okay. All right.
The perils of, the joys of the internet.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let's get on to Ben's projects, because that is why we had him on. We had Ben on because Ben, you were a crazy person. I just got to say that from the outset. I mean, you are a crazy person.
Yeah, I get that a lot. It's kind of surprising to me because I've always been kind of a not a crazy person, but I guess people have different ideas of what crazy is.
So. Can you quantify that statement? You've been not a crazy person. I mean, what's your background? Where you're coming from, and how are you? How do you feel you're not crazy, and then how did you transfer into crazy?
Yeah, I have kind of a standard nerdy background all through high school. I did typical nerdy type things, which is considered pretty far from crazy. I guess I just look at risk a little bit differently from other people, so I don't really think the things that I do are particularly risky, although they are unusual.
Okay.
So, like trying to stimulate your brain.
Yeah. So that one actually ties into what I did for a living. I work with brain researchers. That was my previous business.
Right.
Where I built MRI-compatible computer peripherals. So things like keyboards and mice that would go inside MRI machines.
So that they can
you
withstand
are a
magnetic
professional
fields.
And you do know what you're doing. So
yeah, well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but
Right.
I have a few ideas there.
You know which wires not to cut? Is that the idea?
Yeah, you don't really want to, direct brain stimulation would probably be out of the realm of what I'd feel comfortable with, but TMS has been used for quite a while, and single pulse TMS is shown to be pretty safe. There's really no reports of any lasting.
For those who don't know, what is TMS?
TMS is transcranial magnetic stimulation. So
Obviously.
if you have a very rapidly collapsing magnetic field outside your skull, since your brain is mildly conductive, it actually causes a current to flow inside the brain. So you can create electrical stimulation through the skull.
So it is the collapsing magnetic field.
Right.
When it actually collapses, that's the part that actually induces a signal in the brain.
Yeah, so you basically got one half of a transformer, and you have something about 5,000 amps per second rise time or fall time on it. Actually, it's rise time. And so the change in magnetic field causes that just to induce a current right locally inside the brain.
Wow.
See,
and so
that's the thing. Sounds like that's a massive amount of energy, right? 5,000 amps per second kind of collapsing magnetic. So that sounds dangerous.
Yeah, definitely the most dangerous
really.
part is just the voltages involved. Obviously, to get 5,000 amps per second, you need a fairly high voltage to force all that current through. So that's the worst part of it. Although, as far as actually like damaging brains through, stimulating too much or whatever, that hasn't really been borne out by any of the actual testing that's been going on with actual professional research.
Huh. Right. So where did the impetus come from to actually stimulate your own brain? I mean, on camera, on YouTube. I remember seeing this before I knew who you were. I think this is one of the first videos I had seen of yours, and I was just like, what the hell is this guy thinking? I mean, because if people haven't seen the video, Ben's holding the half transformer basically, right? It's a coiled wrapped bar or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, it's an air coil. It's just some heavy wire wound up into a coil.
Okay. So that's actually forcing a magnetic field through your brain because you're holding it up to your skull, and you found your motor center, and then you can hear the snap because you're cutting off the current, right?
Right.
Assumably with a relay, and that then drops the field, and then the current flows in your brain, and then you show your hand twitching,
right?
And and that's the part where I said, "What the hell is this guy doing?"
Yeah, it
how
definitely
far
looks weird.
from your brain does it need to be?
What's
because
that?
it obviously drops with the square of the distance. How does it have to be right on your skull?
Yeah.
Does it have to be as close as?
It does, and so for TMS is used in current brain research. It's currently a widely used technique, and so everyone is trying to develop coils that focus the dB/dt to the smallest area possible, so that you can use it sort of like a needle.
Right.
Whereas mine was just one single coil, and that has a fairly large target area.
Right.
So you're blasting the entire brain.
Twitch, huh? So did you know that your hand was going to twitch? Was that the area of the brain you were trying to stimulate, or was it just random and you could have, I don't know?
Because what happens if you pick the wrong spot and you just like shit your pants on the spot? I mean, like,
right.
Do you have like B-reel film where you're like, oh God?
It's a good thing, but fortunately through the process of evolution, brains have developed extremely robust control systems, and so it's actually sort of impossible to trigger a response like, pants crapping by just a single pulse TMS.
Right.
Okay.
The researchers have been playing around with it for so long that would have happened by now.
Yeah,
and similarly,
right.
you can't,
that's the brown note, isn't it? What is it? 8 hertz? 8 hertz?
Yeah, we've talked about that on here before.
Yeah, we've done a whole episode on the brown note.
Yeah, and similarly, you can't like shut down your stomach or like, I wouldn't put it near your heart, but you can't cause, heart problems from stimulating a brain and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that non-conscious stuff that's going on, right?
Yeah, so the primary motor cortex is what controls skeletal muscles, and that you can actually sort of, randomly or stimulate manually with the coil like that.
So I don't think you've answered my question, though, like the why. Why do you feel the need to do this to yourself? Is it just... is your brain just every day you wake up and your brain screaming, science? sense.
Yeah.
Is that kind of it, or is it like? I mean, your other videos kind of lean towards that too. I mean, I could see it, but
I like bringing people's horizons a little further out, right? So it's good to remind people that science doesn't have to happen in a lab somewhere. It can happen in your own garage. And really, this isn't science because I'm not really answering questions that haven't been asked yet. I mean, this is all stuff that's already been found.
But you haven't answered my question of why would he do that?
Experimentation, right?
Yeah, I mean, just showing people that it's fun to play around with this stuff, and you can really do it with just one person in a garage. You don't need a research lab to support any of this type of stuff.
Okay, so that was another of my questions. I don't know if I had this on the list, but that is one of my questions. Do you have anyone else there when you're filming this stuff or when you're doing these experiments, just from a safety factor? Because that seems like a common theme in a lot of the comments of your YouTube videos. Like, oh, that's so unsafe, yada yada yada. And I get that you understand risk, and I encourage it. But do you ever have anyone else there around? I mean, like, is that kind of a thing, or how does that work out?
No. I think pretty much every video I've made has been pretty much alone. Convincing people to get involved with this kind of stuff is, believe it or not as easy as you might think. So tell them, hey, come on over. We'll just do a little brain twitching. What do you think?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. And, I typically just like working alone anyway. But the really risky stuff, I mean, the real risk that I'm exposed to is standard stuff. It's just high voltage and, falling off a ladder and things like that. The weird stuff doesn't contribute much risk, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. If you understand it, you understand it. Like, sometimes there might not be a...
Well, in a commercial big company environment where they do safety audits and stuff like that, I wouldn't be able to work alone in my own lab unless I had like a dead man switch or something like that I had to push every hour. And if I don't push it, then somebody comes running. That
really?
goes seriously. That's yeah. But some companies are that paranoid about, say, you are simply not allowed to work on your own like at home in your own office. So yeah, it's crazy.
That's interesting from a large scale point of view. I mean, if you look at it from like a lot of government regulations, I'm not sure what Australians like, but at least like OSHA, in the US, and a lot of industrial safety things. I think to be perfectly blunt, Ben is not their target audience. They're not looking for someone who understands the science like Ben understands it. They're looking for people who don't understand the science, to put it lightly, of like regulations and safeguards in order to do so, right? So
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a real seasoned expert on TMS, but it is something that I've done for work a number of times, and have seen it done on other people, and have seen commercial TMS machines, and so I wouldn't say I'm totally green with it. A lot of the comments about the safety were sort of like, oh, this is crazy. Why would you build a machine like that? Not realizing that these machines have been commercially available for 20 years or more, 30 years probably by now.
Yeah, I thought we've talked about that on the show before, because I had seen an article a long time ago about using it for clinical depression and stuff like that. Like, TMS is actually in use these days. I think it was Hugh Herr was talking about that in terms of like, oh, the future's here kind of thing.
Yeah, that's actually a big deal. So TMS, single pulse TMS, just one blast on the transformer hasn't shown to have any lasting effects. But if you use a repetitive pulse at, say, 30 hertz and give people like 1 second doses of 30 hertz, you actually can cause lasting changes, maybe. I mean, this is still in the research phase. It's not really clinical yet.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, like,
it's scary. So I would actually not do 30 hertz pulse trains on myself. I'm not too interested in lasting changes here.
Right.
Unless the invention center of your brain goes crazy, and then it's like an exponential effect, then, right?
Maybe we'll have to give that a shot.
But you're
then
into
you have to
all
develop
sorts
a maniacal laugh. Yeah, like that, Dave. That's
you're
good.
You're into all sorts of stuff, Ben. You're into... You built your own scanning electron microscope. You're into fluid lenses. You're into... you've got the retinal.
Well, you started with scanning electron microscope. Let's talk about that, because I think I think you beat Dave out in that tech contest, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I don't think I won any contest for the electron
really?
microscope.
I thought you entered that in the tech contest, didn't you?
No.
Which tech contest? Oh,
was
as in the Tektronics contest.
Yeah, Tektronics. There's like a scope contest. Didn't you enter in that?
Oh, yeah. You're right. I did use a tech scope, actually, for the analog output display. Actually, to be perfectly honest, I used
you were...
I used a really cheap, like, Philips, like, surplus store cheapy oscilloscope. And then after I saw the tech contest, I hooked it up to my tech analog scope. And it actually didn't work as well as the Philips for a few reasons.
But of course, that contest was rigged because it was just who had the most people vote for them.
Oh, my God. So the first...
Who could write
you saw
a script
who won the first round, right?
Yeah.
That was so disgusting. I mean, that was really ridiculous. And so then they said, "Oh, okay, I guess we're going to have a judged section."
It wasn't about the how good the project was. That didn't matter, I could.
Yeah.
Chuck a scope on the ground, and that'd be my video. Just,
Well, if it blew up, it would have been good.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but this is a huge build, right? This is massive. Like not only the electron microscope as well, but the rack of all the control stuff as well.
Yeah,
Tell us about how long did it take you to do all this?
I should have been keeping better track. I think it probably came out to somewhere around 100 hours cumulative.
Is that all?
Yeah, it actually wasn't quite as bad as you might think. I mean, a lot of the components, like I bought a lot of power supplies, pre-made power supplies, high voltage, so that I didn't, have to make them.
Right. Okay.
Just because that wasn't really the part of the project that I wanted to explore. It was really doing the electron column that was original. But yeah, it was a really fun project. It's definitely the most complex thing I've ever designed or built.
Did you design your own vacuum system as well, or is that just a commercial pull as well? I remember seeing the bell jar, but I didn't remember about the vacuum, what was drawing the vacuum itself.
Yeah, I put the whole vacuum system together. I had about a 3-inch air-cooled diffusion pump that I had off eBay from a while back, and put that together with a rotary vane pump and some other gauges that I got off eBay.
Oh, okay. So are you a pretty regular eBay scavenger? Is that kind of your... Are you always kind of on the lookout for these these components, or is it more of you were actually looking to design a specific electron microscope, and that's why you were searching out these vane pumps and everything?
I had a little bit of a leg up. I had the vacuum chamber already mostly built in my shop because I was doing aluminum vapor deposition earlier for other stuff, mirror making.
Really? Okay.
And so
as you do, yeah.
Of course.
Right. So I starting with, and I already had the bell jar and everything, which also came from eBay. So that helped out quite a bit.
And so the finished product then, so I mean, there were, like Dave said, there was a lot of controls for the vacuum and for the beam control and everything, and the power supplies, like you said. But I mean, are you still using this regularly? Was it just a can I do it kind of thing, or was it a I need to use this for XYZ?
No. Unfortunately, even though the scope is fun to play with, I don't think you could really use it for any sort of real research, just because it has so many image aberration problems.
Like what? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, there's so much noise in the scanning electrons, or in the scanning electronics and everything, that the image kind of wavers around, and so when you get up into the high magnifications, there's really no image left.
Right.
So it has a lot of problems. So most of my projects, in fact, nearly all of the ones that I post on YouTube, are just to see if it can be done, and then the thing gets taken apart. But in the case of the electron microscope, I'm writing a book with the No Starch Press. And
great.
So I have
that's
to,
great.
Yeah.
That's the press. That's like Mitch Altman and
yeah, exactly.
Our boy Jeff.
Yep. So they told me they were working on a book on microcontrollers or something like that.
Yeah.
So we were talking about doing a book about the electron microscope, and then we decided to kind of expand it out a bit to some other projects.
That's great.
That means I have to keep the scope running long enough so that I can get some more images off of it
Right.
to get it to put the book together.
Well, just take all your pictures now. If you take enough, you'll probably be okay, right?
Yeah, I hope it's all.
boy.
So now I have a reason to actually not take it apart yet. Otherwise, it probably already would have been disassembled.
So do you have it like within caution tape in your lab because you're like, I really need a scope. Oh, I can't do that. I really need a high voltage.
I've
No,
already
don't do
done
it, Ben.
It's really terrible. But to make the TMS thing, I already unhooked one of the high voltage supplies to get some high voltage.
See, that's how
out.
it starts. That's how it starts. Next thing you know, you're going to be like, how did I build this thing again?
I know, it's terrible.
So you're into I'm looking through your list of videos here, and a close look at supercritical carbon, and there's all sorts of weird and wonderful. how to make silica aerogel at home and carbonated fruit and all sorts of weird and wonderful. What, do you just like search for ideas for this kind of stuff, or do you, or does just one thing lead to another? You're doing research on your scanning electron microscope and that, and you find a little area of some other thing and, that'd be interesting to work on.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not, it seems like one project does kind of parlay into the next one, but sometimes I'll get ideas of just chatting to friends about half-baked ideas, and then I, go home and fully bake them. It's really
Right.
I like half-baked ideas that you kind of work out. Like the contact lens thing was another one of these things where on the internet every so often this same story shows up with the LED in a contact lens, and so I was talking about it with friends, thinking, "Oh, come on, it's really not that hard. It's just..."
So can you explain the problem a little bit more too, if people haven't seen? I mean, obviously we'll post the video, but in case people haven't seen the video before listening.
Sure. So there was a research group, I think at University of Washington, that got a contact lens and put an LED inside it with some electronics, and then put that contact lens into a rabbit's eye, and then powered the contact lens remotely through inductive coupling. Mm-hmm. So, and they have some, I don't think they ever had a video of it, but they had some photos of it up on the site. And
so what is the point of having a single LED in there?
Yeah,
in a contact lens. What's the end result?
Right. It's a bit more of a proof of concept, just showing what might be possible. So obviously the best thing would be to have an entire display in the contact lens. That way you could have either virtual reality or augmented reality with the display literally in your eye.
Is it easier just to wear a pair of glasses? And then you can, take them off because you'd have to take out the contact lens when you didn't want it anyway. So isn't a pair of glasses just easier? You can buy them on eBay now. Yeah. Well, there's certain benefits to having the optical system close to your eye. Depending what kind of focusing system you have, you can have the display and the contact in focus at the same time that you're looking out into the world. Whereas with glasses, you have a constant problem because you have to pick a focal length for the glasses to operate. Ah, right.
And there's a couple other benefits, too. Obviously, you don't have to wear glasses if you have the contacts in, and no one could know if you're even using the display if you have the
super
contacts.
secret James Bond stuff right there, right?
But yeah, obviously glasses are a good solution to it, too. That'll probably happen before contacts.
Yeah.
So no one has gotten past a single LED yet. They've just done single LED proof of concept. Nobody's done a matrix yet?
That's a really good question. I don't know. If they have, it's really cutting edge. So, of course, my next video...
Spoiler alert.
Right. RGB this time, yeah.
Ooh, nice.
Wow, yep. Just a
I
single
thought
RGB.
you were going to say you're going to pull the contact apart and use the wire inside the contact lens in order to do a different project. Totally unrelated.
Could be. You never know.
Yeah.
So do you have to have 3 separate coupling coils for that, or have you got one coupling coil and demultiplexing circuitry or something?
Yeah, you could do it a few different ways. I'm pretty sure the University of Washington group had a chip that actually sort of like a powered RFID tag.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think an easier way to do it would be to have a single coil with different capacitors, and so if it resonates at different frequencies, you could send power through different frequencies, just multi-channel it. Of course, then you're talking about 3 capacitors plus the coil plus LEDs, so it's getting a little bit heavy for an
And it gets to a point where you may as well have digital demultiplexing in a...
I think I got to bring up, this is actually, Dave, you cannot argue with me on this one. This is actually a good use of printable electronics because it's got RFID, it's got polymers, right? And,
of course.
And this would actually be a realistic use of a printable electronic circuit. I don't know if, Ben, you know about the ongoing argument here on the Amp Hour, but...
I've never argued against printable electronics.
Right.
You're the one who keeps morphing the subject right from, silicon. It started out as, build your own silicon at home, and then it was, once you realise that was a shit idea, then you've moved on to this printable electronics.
Yeah.
And come on.
Anywho,
Anyway.
Yeah. I think that would be a realistic way of eventually doing it, though, because then, you could actually have resolution there, But that's great proof of concept. I remember in the video you said wasn't really wearable. Is this next generation actually going to be a little bit more wearable with the instead of using tweezers to seal the contacts around it, or how's that working?
Yeah, that was terrible. I mean, that was sort of a last-ditch effort just to get the video done in time. I mean, like I say, this is sort of a little throwaway project that I was thinking of doing just to show people that there wasn't a whole lot of unusual stuff going on. It's literally just a coil with an LED. Yeah. So I pinched it together just to hold the thing together, for 60 seconds so that I could put it in my eye to get some video of it. Yeah. But in reality, you would need some specialized glues or something, because I couldn't get the contacts to stick together well enough just by pressing.
Or like a press that was actually just around the edge, right? So that you can get that seal all the way around instead of like a pinch seal. Yeah, that would be good. Or even just a glue that would actually adhere to the plastic of the lenses. I'm not really sure what they are. They aren't silicone though. Yeah, they're some kind of weird plastic, right? I don't know.
I think this project actually is very similar to sort of, making your own chip at home kind of thing. It's easy to do one LED or one transistor, right? But then when you want to then that leap to actually having something usable is, orders of magnitude greater complexity.
Oh, yeah.
Many orders of magnitude greater complexity.
Yeah.
So...
It definitely. And I had comments on the video like, oh, that's useless. One LED, what can you do with that? And so obviously they missed the point of the video, which was just to show that, at the basic level, there's nothing weird going on. But yeah, refining it into a full two-dimensional display would take, a factory of machinery.
Well, it's still pretty cool, though. I like it. So, with this project, I mean, this wasn't for a commercial venture, but you mentioned that your mag design is moving into a new phase. I mean, are you looking to do this kind of stuff full time, or what's your deal with that?
Oh, tinkering, you mean?
Yeah, tinkering full time. I mean, are you looking at YouTube?
Actually, so I for the last 7 or 8 years, I've been running my MRI compatible devices business, which has been sort of a one person business. Uh-huh. And just recently...
Is that a part-time thing, or is that your full-time job?
No, that's been my full-time job for pretty much the last 7 or 8 years, just about.
Right.
And it's worked really well. I've been living in the Bay Area here, and it's worked out well. But just in the last few months, I've started to work for Valve Corporation in Seattle.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. And so, I mean... it's unfortunately all top-secret stuff up there, so I can't get into too much detail, but it is hardware. And... after 7 or 8 years of doing the MRI compatible stuff, I was interested in trying something new. So it's actually worked out really well for me.
That's great. That's awesome. So, all right. So let's move from mag to tinkering to the kitchen. What is with this argonated beer? Because this is another project I saw, and I was like, what is going on with this?
Yeah.
What was the? I mean, it was just like. You're like drinking Guinness one night. You're like, oh, I got to try some other noble gas or something, right?
Yeah, this happens a lot, and so
why not helium-nated beer? So that you could have like a higher pitch voice.
I know, yeah. This is exactly the kind of half-baked ideas that spawn these projects. So
involving beer, is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, it doesn't hurt, And so
yeah, right.
So I've been. Brewing beer at home for kind of a while as another side hobby, even though I haven't really done any videos about that. So I'm pretty familiar with the typical brew process and the typical carbonation process. Mm-hmm. And using argon, so yeah, Guinness is I think half nitrogen, half CO2, or even 75% nitrogen, depending who you ask. Right. And the reason for that is because it does change the beer's character. The nitrogen is not as soluble in the water as CO2 is. Yeah. So that when you pour the beer, more of the nitrogen comes out and it froths up, and you get that nice Guinness head on there.
Right. Yeah, and that's what they show in all the commercials too. Those silly little bubbles.
Yep. And they, have the widget in the bottles to get the same effect and all that stuff. Yep. And so, so I figured, well, I've got a TIG welding set with a nice argon bottle there. I may as well try argon.
Yep.
Which isn't, it honestly didn't really do a whole lot, because argon is very similar to nitrogen in terms of solubility, and so it has almost the same effect. But well, the original half-baked idea that got this going was xenon-aided beer. Xenon really? Is...
which is another noble gas,
right? yeah, heavier. And it has anesthetic properties, even at atmospheric pressure.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Xenon is actually like a super high-tech anesthetic, because it's not hydrocarbon-based. and it works, very well.
So it absorbs into like stomach lining though, or intestinal lining, or how does it actually cause
you
anesthesia?
would put it into someone's breathing supply. The only downside is that xenon is so expensive, you actually have to recover it. So they do have xenon anesthesia machines, but it actually has to pull the xenon back out of the exhaled airstream.
Yeah, right.
So I thought, wow, xenonated beer, I mean, this would be great. You could just, get a little anesthetic property from the alcohol and the xenon, maybe.
Ben, I don't know if you've heard about this. I hear you live in the Bay Area. I mean, there's a lot of other things you can add to beer or, do alongside beer that can cause pain reduction.
Right.
I'm just saying on a side note there.
Yeah, but that's, come on, we got to be high-tech about this here. This is
high-tech.
Yeah.
High-tech highness. Okay, all right. That's... So, but would xenon actually be? Would that? I mean, you're way outside my realm here. You're getting in the chemistry realm here. So, I mean, would that be soluble in liquid, or how does that work?
I'd have to check again. I think it's probably comparable to argon, so not too much.
Okay.
But again, the major downside is just so expensive. I want to play with flash tubes too, making my own xenon flash tubes. So I was kind of getting ready to order a tank of this stuff, but there's kind of a big leap. Like if you accidentally cracked the valve open, you just lost a few $100s.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So how much of the time do you spend researching this stuff, and how much time would you spend actually practically working on stuff?
I read on the internet an awful lot.
All right.
I can imagine it's mostly research, actually learning about these things before, because I can imagine, a lot of experimentation. Like if you just experimented without trying to research this stuff, you would waste a hell of a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the internet is just such a great place for finding stuff out. And actually, the Google Patents has proven to be one of the best sources of information.
Interesting.
Right.
So for
what kind of stuff you found out there what's your favorite one, or how it even applies to some of the videos you've done?
Yeah, so just today actually I was working on supercritical CO2 decaffeination of coffee.
As you do.
Yeah, and so I had a video a while back where I tried to do this and it didn't work. Like I had a high pressure vessel and I got some dry ice in there with some coffee beans and pumped up the pressure and all that, and I didn't get any caffeine out of it. So I tried the same thing again last night with a much better chamber, and I had more control over it. And I've got this like caffeinated sludge, or what I hope is caffeinated sludge, sitting in a beaker right now. And the process to figure out how to do all
now
this...
that's a YouTube video, is you drinking that sludge and seeing what happens. You just do like a time lapse and see how, your eyes widen and you start shaking.
Yeah, see, now you know how to get YouTube viewers. It sounds like you've got a pretty good idea of how to get more subscribers.
I've learned from Dave.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I learned the whole process from Google Patents. I mean, the entire coffee decaffeination process is spelled out in super high detail in all the patents.
Huh. That's crazy.
They're usually very difficult to read, though.
That's
because
true.
Patents are written in a way that you're not supposed to understand.
By lawyers?
That's their job,
Is that what you mean?
By lawyers, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's too
just
bad
enough
that they
to
don't have a
defend,
summary that's like the layman's summary at the top or something, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be a hell of a website, like the patent translation website, go from, Google Patent 1 to Ben's video. I guess that's kind of what you're doing, right? I mean,
yeah.
How to go from caffeine extraction patent to caffeine extraction sludge.
Yeah,
there was a big news item the other day about Apple. Somebody, there's all these geeks out there searching, Apple patents and stuff like that. And one of them just popped up that they've been working on fuel cells, the hydrogen-based fuel cells for their iPhone and stuff like that. So that's a big news item now. Apple are going to revolutionise the the battery industry and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, well, they just do that. They just do that to prevent, though, too. That's the problem, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to find stuff that's already done, right, Ben? I mean, like stuff that you've already heard about or seen.
Yeah, I mean, I like you say, a lot of my videos, people think that it's novel or something, but really it's just me showing that it can be done in a one-person shop, that you don't need a research lab to support it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good takeaway from a lot of your videos, I think, is that, you're trying stuff and it's definitely possible, so that's good.
Yeah.
Let's hear some more about your shop, though, because, I mean, I think Dave's starting up his shop, and so there's a lot of shop talk around lately. And I mean,
Yep.
I'd love to hear more about what's in your shop, and Dave, what's going on in your shop, and just what you have in it, and what you plan to. Everybody's got a wish list. We talked about wish lists and for Christmas and stuff, but yeah, let's hear about your shop.
Sure, yeah. So I moved to the Bay Area in 2005 and rented a house that had a small 2-car garage, which was my shop at the time, and that was about 250 square feet or something like that. So it was pretty cramped. I had a CNC milling machine in there, which took up about a quarter of the whole space. And the rest of it was so packed that to use the shop, I'd have to roll the door open and then wheel some equipment out so that I could get into the shop, which prevented working in the rain because the equipment would get rained on. So luckily it doesn't rain very much. Anyway, so a few years ago, I bought a bigger shop in the Bay Area here. It's really just another garage, but it's pretty big. It's about 850 square feet. And have the same CNC machine, but now it only takes up, a tenth or a fifth of the shop or whatever. And so I've been adding other machines to it. It's mostly a mechanical-looking shop. Like if you went in there, it would not look like electronics, since most of the machines in there are metal and woodworking machines. So I've got, a planer and a jointer and the CNC machine, probably about 5 different sanders, shaper, table saw, 2 lathes, the TIG welding machine. I think that's pretty much it for the large machine, and then a few benches for the electronics.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember seeing in your supercritical CO2 stuff, you actually created your own chamber from acrylic and metal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my actual degree is in mechanical engineering, even though that hasn't proven to be all that useful in any job I've had so far.
Well, that's
right.
I think in the tinkering field, you got to be good at both. So
yeah, they don't have a degree in tinkering, unfortunately.
Have you ever heard of Travis Goodspeed? You know who that is?
No.
He does some like RF hacking and stuff, and I met him one time, and he goes to University of Pennsylvania where they can name their own degrees, and his degree.
What?
Yeah, his degree is in reverse engineering. So maybe if people want to go to University of Pennsylvania, they could go get a tinkering degree, but they'd probably have to, make their own.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I would definitely want to put that
so
together.
So the name of it would be based on your project or thesis or what? What's the...
No, you just name your own, but basically then you create a curriculum around what you're doing.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Naturally, it would have to be approved by...
Of course, yeah. But I think if you give them enough money, that's like any school, right?
A wankery or something,
Yeah. I think, Travis does some good stuff. He does a lot of... He turned one of those, like, pink handheld IM.me. It's like this instant messaging toy for... and it's branded for girls because it's all pink and girly and whatever. And he turned it into a spectrum analyzer.
Really?
It was awesome. Yeah.
Fantastic.
He showed it to me. It was like a 900 megahertz spectrum kind of stuff, so you could get a pretty decent band around that. It was awesome. So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff they should be doing in college classes. Actually, my sort of long-term goal for my career is to have some effect on higher education, because I think it's pretty much broken fully at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And having a degree where you actually reverse engineer a toy and make it into a spectrum analyzer would just be supremely useful.
Yeah.
Just touching on that, how do you think it's broken?
Well, I mean, like I say...
Not being based in the US, I've heard horror stories, but can you...
Yeah, I mean, I went to 2 universities. I did 2 years at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, and then finished up my degree at UC Santa Barbara. And I liked UCSB okay. It was a good place to study, but the type of things that are taught in class are just not all that applicable to the real world. And so there's this huge divide between theory and practice, and it's just so far apart. It's almost bimodal at this point, where the theory is just not even close to being applicable.
Right. Yeah, it's mainly for research labs and high level simulations and all that other stuff that you'll never get down into it, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to go back and teach it, that's about all it's good for, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit self-perpetuating in that respect.
Yeah, and it's also self-perpetuating in that if you want to become a professor and actually teach practical application, you have to get your PhD first, which weeds out anyone who's with a practical mindset.
Yeah, that sort of instantly rules you out, doesn't it? Rules you for life.
I might have to do it eventually just so I can get back in there, but it would be a tough, long road for me, I think.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I don't know if you guys have seen the news articles recently, but Stanford and MIT. Stanford did that artificial intelligence class last semester, and they're actually doing a bunch more now. They're doing machine learning and game theory and a bunch of others. And that's just for fun, right? That's just for people to learn, and that's the best part of it, right? It's like people are actually learning versus just doing it for a degree. That's not that people that get degrees aren't learning, but MIT now is actually doing a program where people can get like a certificate. It's not necessarily good for a degree, but it's a some of the free online classes. They're taking it to the next level where it's like, if people complete it, there's actually some kind of recognition of that. And so maybe that's moving towards some kind of future where, you're tinkering in your shop like Ben is, and then you take some online classes and hopefully it's free-ish or low cost, and you can move towards a degree in some way,
I think a lot of proactive employers are actually realizing this. And so, hopefully places like hackerspaces will be able to certify people or whatever in some way. Or even you could just say you've spent enough time at a hackerspace to be, known there. And an employer would see that and realize that that's way more useful than just having someone fresh out of college who hasn't had any hands-on experience.
Certified nerd.
For sure.
I like it.
Certified hacker, yeah, right.
There you go, certified hacker. That's better than certified nerd.
If I was interviewing someone and they put, I'm a member of a, senior member of a hackerspace, and I'm there, 5 times a week, they would bang, instantly get the job, I think, over somebody who doesn't, pretty much. That'd be a huge, huge deciding factor for me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Ben, are you part of any hackerspaces out in the Bay Area?
No, now that I just gave that, now that I just said how great it was. No,
a fan but not a participant? Is that
I really should. The nearest one is Noisebridge, of course, in San Francisco, and I've only met Mitch Altman a couple times, and when I did the scanning electron microscope, a few guys from Noisebridge came by my booth at Maker Faire. Mm-hmm. They have a semi-functional scanning electron microscope at Noisebridge.
Oh, cool.
So I was going to go up there and kind of play with it a bit and compare notes, but it hasn't happened yet. Even though I'm physically fairly close to San Francisco, there's still a big, it still takes a while to decide to drive up there and then drive up there,
Yeah, it's a big time thing, isn't it? But I'd love to hang out at a hackerspace, even if it was next door. If it was next door, but even if it was 5 minutes drive away, I probably wouldn't be able to spend that much time there because it's just
we've talked about this before too. Jeff ran into the same problem. I talk about the same problem. If you have a lab at home, you have stuff you're working on, then there's less incentive. But obviously, the community aspect is still a good thing. That's what you really want to get at. But the real driving factor is the access to equipment. So it doesn't seem like that's a big problem for you, Ben, with your your shop. Yeah,
this has been my sort of lifelong goal here, is to have a really nice shop in my backyard. And so I've pretty much gotten that one just about done.
Yeah, it seems very impressive, I have to say.
So the shop is actually in your backyard, is it?
Yep.
Is that the...
Okay, so you said a new garage. You must have moved in order to get that bigger garage or something.
Yeah, so when I was looking for a house, I kept telling the real estate agent, well, it's really more about the garage. The house could be almost anything. And she was kind of annoyed by that. But
I take it you don't have a wife then?
No.
No, well, that answers the question how we can spend all this time on this stuff, because that's the only way you can do it, folks. So there you go.
I can see that being a bit of a factor, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal, It's it literally is a big deal when you have not so much a partner, a wife, but and a family, but just having a partner and and having social activities and other commitments outside of and chores and things to do outside of your hobby.
Now you're just saying Ben doesn't have any responsibilities. I'm sure he's got tons of stuff.
I can remember what it was like when I had no partner. It was like if I didn't wash up today, it didn't matter.
Oh, like that. Yeah, I see.
Kind of thing. Yeah, I didn't have to drop everything I was working on, ruin my train of thought, and go and do the chore that she wants me to do. So. that can suck away
Dave's
a lot of
saying
time.
he's jealous. That's what I'm hearing. That's why he moved out into his new shop. That's he's getting away from the wife. That's what it is.
So you're off site now, huh?
Yeah. I've got the separate office. The video's up. I'm building I just put the video up the other day.
It looks great.
Bought a new office, and it's about a 3-minute drive away, about a 18-minute walk or something.
Oh.
So it's within walking distance, which is good. And yep, and it's basically the nearest thing I could get to my house, pretty much. So that was that was the deciding factor. How close is it to my house? It's within walking distance. I'll buy it. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
that's great.
And Dave,
that was it.
You were looking for more things to put into your space. I mean, you've got a pretty good size too there. I think maybe you should take
There's plenty of rack space. So if the likes of Agilent or Tektronix or BK Precision
no, I meant the
or
floor
X-Tech
space. You were
anyone
pointing
else
out the
wants
floor
to-
space that you had there. I think you should take a page out of Ben's book and
I've
start
got
putting
to
in
fill
some
up I've got to fill up the rack space first. Before I start on the floor space.
Nah.
And then I'll get a pick and place machine. So if there's any pick and place manufacturers out there who want some publicity, I can help you out there in exchange for a nice shiny pick and place machine. Hey, it's worth a try, right?
Yeah, see, there you go. You're definitely an electronics first guy, and I think I might even be...
I'm an electronics first, yeah.
Definitely more of a mechanics person myself when it comes down to it, and electronics might be more of a secondary thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally... Yeah, my shop, I've got a set of screwdrivers, and that's pretty much my entire mechanical thing in my new lab, That's pretty much it, so...
Well, speaking of mechanical, Ben, I remember you did a 3D printing video. Just you did your own with like a hot glue gun and an XY controller, right?
Yeah.
Hot glue gun.
Well, it was even
hot snot gun, as we call it here in Australia.
Hot snot, nice.
Hot snot.
There was in fact the XY controller was a set of hands, just a human hands holding it.
Oh, really?
I built that specifically for a grade school lecture, if you want to call it a lecture. I basically brought that thing to a grade school to show them how a 3D printer works.
Okay, that's awesome.
Well, that's a great concept at a macro scale,
Yeah.
At a here's the huge glue gun. You can see the big droplets of glue coming out, that kind of thing. So, as a concept demonstrator, that's a good idea.
Sorry, you guys dropped out there for a minute.
Oh, okay. Well, Dave was just he likes the concept. I do too. I think that from a explaining it perspective, that's great idea. But my question was going to be, I mean, you said you probably weren't going to have a 3D printer in your shop, and I was just wondering about your outlook for 3D printing. And I think Dave, I thought I saw you mention you might have gotten a MakerBot. Is that right? Am I dropped out too? Oh.
No, I can hear you.
Okay, well maybe Dave dropped out too.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your take on the future of 3D
I'm always
printing?
I've been dropping out the whole show. I haven't heard half this show, guys.
Where's that? Why not?
Right.
Basically.
Well, no, it's not that I'm negative on it. It's just that I think I would prefer to have other tools first. Like, for example, a laser cutter would be a bit more useful to me than a 3D printer. Of course, having both is always better. But...
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm massively excited about the prospect of getting my MakerBot.
Yeah, I was asking that. So you are getting one, is that right?
I am getting one. They're sending me one. Yep.
That is awesome. I'm excited for you too, man. That's
fantastic.
That's great.
And the first thing I thought, holy shit, I can print my own case for my calculator watch now. It's like
I was just going to say for electronics. I mean, obviously the major application is doing custom enclosures, which are difficult to do even with a nice CNC milling machine. So 3D printing is especially good for shells and project enclosures.
Although I've said this before, I'm a huge fan of using off-the-shelf enclosures and designing your product around that. It just means everyone can get it, and they are quite low cost. If it only costs $1 or $2 for a commercial box, then
That's true. I was
they're
thinking
going to be better than anything you can make on your MakerBot. Quite frankly,
yeah. I was thinking of products
because
that
they're
would require...
fully injection molded and everything else, and they're tough and they're
Yeah, like specialized shapes. Like if you wanted to make something that was wearable.
Oh, yeah, specialized, yeah. Oh, yeah, wearable and things like that. Totally different, ball game.
Huh. So how soon are you getting that, Dave? Is that next couple weeks?
Well, they're sending it as soon as possible. I think they're out of stock at the moment. I think that's one of the problems. But anyway, I haven't heard, but it'll eventually turn up.
That's great.
That'll be fantastic. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, cool.
So Ben, what about future projects? What's coming up since you're? I mean, you said was the caffeine thing is
Yeah.
is another thing? I mean, are you got other things? Are you going to do more thermite? I saw your thermite video.
Thermite?
Yeah.
As in the explosive thermite?
You didn't see that video, Dave? He cooked
No.
with thermite.
Oh yeah, cooked a shish kebab. Yeah.
Okay, we've just been flagged by the FBI's
I
auto
know.
search detection algorithms, and
Goodbye,
they'll be at your door
world.
in
FBI
10
shut
minutes.
this down. See you later.
Someone did actually want me to replicate the Mythbusters thermite experiment where they put it on ice and actually did have an explosion. I mean, thermite doesn't explode by itself if everything is going, normally.
Right.
But
You need that
supposedly,
magnesium stimulus or whatever.
yeah, you can put a magnesium fuse on it to get it started. But apparently, if you put it on a block of ice, you can actually get an explosion. And this is one that I probably won't try because you need to do it on a scale large enough to cause like a lot of steam formation. One theory is that the steam causes it to actually explode.
Right, so your entire garage could go up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have
You
limits
call
too,
your
you
real
know.
estate
I mean,
agent back up and be like, I need another big garage. Let's go bigger.
Yeah,
See the headline, crazy YouTube inventor
right. So yeah, even I have limits.
blowing
yeah.
to bits in the
Oh,
garage
see, there we go,
explosion.
people. Ben knows safety. He knows not to replicate steam explosions.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the caffeine extraction will be one of the future videos. I've got another technique for drying aerogel. So instead of using supercritical CO2, I'm going to try using supercritical methanol, which is this one. This one I'll definitely get flack for too because it is pretty dangerous. It's high temperature, high pressure methanol, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to try that one. Even though I'll probably get some comments on that.
Yeah, well, who cares? So what about, I mean, more chemistry stuff? That seems like, chemistry seems like a very interesting, like, niche topic, like, I don't know. How did you get into the chemistry side of it in general? Was it just the DARE stuff like you talked about, or you actually have a chemistry bent to your experimentation?
Yeah, I don't. That's just kind of the phase I'm in right now, I guess. I don't know. I got started with the CO2 stuff. What was the start of the CO2 stuff? I don't know. I guess it was just the supercritical CO2 to start, and then kind of got interested in high pressure systems and stuff like that. There actually is a really good chemistry community on YouTube. Guys like Nerd Rage and all those guys that post chemistry related videos. Pretty popular stuff.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. I've never seen any of those.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that post amateur chemistry videos. And most of them, it's unfortunate that everyone associates chemistry with bomb making nowadays, or meth making, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's either bombs or meth.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of stigma associated with doing chemistry at home. People think you're up to something evil always.
Doubly so if you blow up your shop.
Yeah, I mean, there's always...
Well, us electronics guys, we're branded as bomb makers now. If you try and take any improvised, quote marks, improvised electronic device through an airport, you are screwed.
That's true.
Or you ship it to the Jacksonville mayor's office, right, Dave? We talked about that on here before.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Well, that's...
You crazy Americans. I don't know.
No, it's bad. I agree.
Paranoid Americans.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Sorry.
No, I
Yep.
mean, I think everyone basically hates airport security, and it's just... Actually, I read recently that someone was actually touting the value of security theater, so even tricking people into thinking that flying is safer than it is worthwhile because it helps lube the economy along. But
Right, yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in some way, shape, or form, yeah.
Yeah. So we're kind of starting to run down on time, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about your education bend of things. So perfect world. What's your perfect world education model? I mean, how would you do it, and what would it involve for a student and for a teacher?
I would probably keep the university education, or sort of compress a typical 4-year BS degree down to about 1 year of class. And then the remaining 2, 3, or whatever years would be essentially a work study or an internship or something like that.
Okay.
Unpaid or paid or whatever. But I mean, basically you could compress the 4 years of theory down into one, I think, pretty easily. And that would basically cover it well enough for most engineering degrees.
Yep.
Huh. That's interesting because there's actually a model in Germany, and there's a link on here about that. But basically, it's the apprenticeship model, and there is some, they work with companies to help develop curriculum and stuff like that, but a lot of it is targeted towards getting people into a workplace so they can actually learn on the job, and then there's some buy-in from employers and stuff too. So I don't know if is that kind of what you're talking about, or more even just hands-on in a lab at a school? Is that more of the idea?
I think it could work either way. I mean, the trick is that you would actually be working on projects that are real. I mean, doing the school stuff is just so far removed. It has no, I mean, I had one professor try to explain it to me as that the stuff we were doing in class is a mental exercise, and then it just got your brain strong enough so that when you left school, you could use your strengthened brain on actual problems, which is ridiculous. That makes no sense whatsoever.
But not everyone wants to do that, though. Not everyone wants to work on practical stuff.
Yeah, and I think
some people just want their engineer. Once you get your engineering degree, there's a lot of stuff you can work on that doesn't require you to. That's important stuff that doesn't require you to actually build anything or do anything like that. Actually, design anything.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think we should probably separate people based on what they want to do.
Yeah,
I mean, currently,
totally.
If you call yourself a technician, at least in the U.S., that means that you're not an engineer and that you're just going to be following someone else's design or something. And
it also means you're probably better than most engineers at soldering and circuit repair and everything else.
Absolutely. But again, there's a stigma, and there's also a salary difference. If you call yourself a technician or you go to a trade school, you're not going to be competing for the same engineering jobs that people with a BS have typically.
That's a good point. Yep. Yeah.
Which is too bad. I mean, that makes no sense at all. I mean,
Yeah. I'd like to give a personal shout out to all the technicians that helped me over the years.
That's right. Yeah, that's something. So
I mean, that's how I learned a lot of stuff.
I mean, I consider myself a technician just because mostly what I've been doing for the MRI business and basically at Valve too is that it's all just hands-on work. It's not high-level engineering.
So less system kind of concept, but more trying stuff out. And,
yeah, I mean,
I don't know. There's a lot of fun in that too.
Oh,
though,
yeah.
I think,
certainly for me, I enjoy it way more. Definitely.
Yeah. And maybe that's I don't know. Maybe that's the future of hardware too, because you look at high level systems, right, and how even FPGAs are constructed, and just systems constructed with FPGAs or programmable systems, that kind of thing. There is more of a trend towards reusable hardware and hardware not being as much of an issue, right? Abstracting that all out. So at that point, then the quote unquote architects would be, the high level software people, and the hardware people would be more of the getting it done kind of thing. But obviously there's a lot of realities in there that, that don't really match that, but that might be...
There's so many permutations and combinations. It's not funny. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I mean, I could see a world where software is a little bit more involved, or would involve more engineering than I guess the hardware would in some ways. I guess it's just where you draw the line between engineering and technicians' work. Is assembling like a reference schematic or something, is that considered technicians' work now? I don't know. So
I don't know either.
There are no boundaries. Everything blurs. I mean, it's I've worked on so many things over the years that can be classified as all sorts of things. I can be a statistician. I could be a production engineer. I could be a system designer. I could be a ceramics engineer. I could be anything. I could be a technician. I could be a production worker.
Yeah.
I've worked on everything. Well, no,
Yeah.
I probably haven't even scratched the surface yet. I've worked on probably 10 different disciplines or job titles I could call myself, or something like that. 10 different areas of engineering.
Right.
And I'm sure I haven't even scratched the surface.
And
it's
I mean,
crazy.
yeah, and I felt the same. I mean, I think that's the most fun when you get to bounce around. But then there's also I think education systems kind of favor the truly focused and like super specialized. That's what PhD systems are towards, right? If you have a PhD, then you're working on one very small part of one very specific research sector. So it kind of fits that model, but.
Yeah, it gets. Yeah, I definitely.
Less fun.
And the interesting thing with that is that then you will get hired based on the fact that they think you can do that sort of thing and you can apply it to something else, whereas in a lot of cases you can't.
Yeah, that's that
because
argument
you just
for
don't
mental
have
exercise or whatever.
You don't have the aptitude for that. Yeah, you've just spent 3 years working on one little one your PhD, whether it's a practical or a theoretical one. It doesn't mean you can apply those things to some other project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also makes a big difference how well you can work with other people, and not pointing any fingers or anything, but sometimes
engineers don't work well with others. That's just the good engineers don't. Yeah.
Well, who are you going to point a finger at? Were you going to point a finger at?
Like you say, I wasn't pointing, not to point any fingers or anything, but sometimes.
That means you are pointing fingers.
I'll raise my own finger. I don't play well with the other kiddies.
No, I wasn't going to single out engineers in general. I was going to imply that typically the higher level specialized people that focus on one topic narrowly are a little more difficult to work with, just because they've been focused on their topic so much that they can't relate to any other part of the project.
Right.
Yeah. See, I consider myself a complete generalist in that respect. I think I can pretty much contribute to almost any area of any particular project. I can come in and go, well, I can work. I've got ideas for that, even though I've never worked on it before.
Dave has opinions on everything.
I do.
I think it's good.
So do I.
No, people should have opinions on everything, and having a little bit of background on all topics is much more useful than having super high depth on one topic, or at least in my opinion.
Right.
It depends on what you're working on. I've required things where you need somebody who's worked 20 years on that one thing. It's so vital that they've got so much knowledge in that area that you just can't do without it.
Yeah.
So as always, there's a need for all types, but in general, I think your more creative engineers are less social than your possibly your run-of-the-mill engineer, I would hazard a guess.
Could be.
Well, I guess we should go hide in our caves and think about that. I can't talk to you guys anymore because I'm going to prove I'm a decent engineer.
That's right.
Oh, boy. Anyway, our amp power's up.
It is. But
our capacity is depleted. Thank you very much, Ben, for joining us.
Oh, thanks very much for having me on.
It totally flew by.
Yeah, it did.
Which of your awesome videos would you like us to link into the show notes? Because we have to put at least one video.
Oh, we'll put a couple. There. But what's your favorite?
Oh, well, I guess either the contact lens or the electron microscope. Of course, if you're interested, you could put my cake making videos up there, which are actually on any given week are the most popular things on my channel.
Right, cake making, yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah.
Just like my most popular video is a Kindle review. Go figure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good old general population.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you can't beat it. That's, I am resisting the temptation to do more general videos like that would appeal to the mass market. So
I support that.
But considering that this is my full-time living,
Yeah.
it is a big temptation.
Oh yeah. So we could find Ben on Google Plus, right? Ben, you're on Google Plus. We'll link people into there.
Yep.
Your BKraz333 on YouTube.
Unfortunately,
we'll link people
yes.
in there. Yes,
that's BKRAZ 333.
Right.
Yep. Which is an unfortunate name which you wish you could change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can find me and Dave at the usual places. I'm at Chris_Gamble. Dave's EEV blog on Twitter.
I am luckily at EEV blog.
Yeah.
I chose that name when I started and stuck with it, and it seems to have worked. I don't have to change it.
Yeah, it's
lucky.
Better than mine, yeah.
Pure luck. I didn't have any foresight in that area, and lucked out.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks again, Ben, and we'll hope to talk to you soon, and we'll look forward to seeing more of your videos, because hopefully you survive them.
Oh, definitely. I think I shoot for about one a week now these days.
That's awesome.
Excellent. And sorry if I appear distant today. I haven't heard half this show. The Mumble server has just been its worst ever.
Oh, that's
absolutely
too bad.
Shocking today.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll have to actually play this back and listen to it because I literally missed half of it.
Oh, wow.
So if things don't make sense, that's why.
Oh, no worries. I didn't even notice.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I was smiling the whole time. Dave was talking so little.
This might be our best episode ever.
Yep. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
We can actually hear your bandwidth getting siphoned off right now.